So I may
No
drop
problem.
off in case the call is getting over. I will join back. Otherwise, I will
Sure,
look
sure.
at the
Okay.
recording.
Okay. So we started with this Visarga part like last week, if you recall. Um, Visarga, in the context of Sandhi, and also it comes in the context of pronunciation. And we did this covered it last week itself. So, we have normally a lot of this, if you see the scripts, etc., you will have Ramaha plus Tatra, Ramas Tatra. So the Visarga is replaced with a half sa, is matra, right? Ramas Tatra. Then, you see this chanting called Parayo Petaha plus Te. So it would have been written as Parayo Peta Te. Or if, let's say, if it is not written, but you find this, how do you pronounce it? It'd be Parayo Peta Te. It's the way it should be done. Hmm. And then, so we looked at this last week itself. Now we'll go into a couple of the other ones. Let me just get this properly aligned. Yeah. So here we are following it per and for. This you will see a lot in or pretty much all the Vishnu Sahasranam, Rudram Chamakam, many other places. So this is our Gayatri mantra, right? So what do you do whenever you have this following it? The Visarga is replaced with ha, if matra, right? So Dio yo naha prachodayat is the way normally we would say it. Naha, it's not Dio yo naha prachodayat, it's Dio yo nah prachodayat. Okay? Dio yo nah prachodayat. That's the way it is chanted. And this comes in Purusha in Rudram Chamakam. Nanya panta ayanaya vidyate. So how do you do this? Nanya panta ayanaya vidyate. And then I think this comes in Vishnu Sahasranam. Keshava Purushottamaha. Right? Keshava Purushottamaha. Fairly obvious, right? When you see these. Okay, then we get to the third category. I'm assuming all of this is straightforward. I'm just going through this, so just for understanding. This is a very common one. You'll find a lot of followed by a s or a sh or even a sh, that one also everywhere, right? So Visarga is replaced with half sa or half sh, depending on what is following it. So this is a very common one, right? Almost at the end of any chanting, we say Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. It is not Om Shantihi Shantihi. It is Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. The last Visarga remains as it is. So this we teach the children in the Bali. We have that this is the way they should chant, and almost every child knows it today. When they say Om Shanti, they say Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Okay, and then Samvatsaro Vyala Pratyaya Sarvadarshanaha. This would ring a bell for many of you where it comes. You'll see multiple instances, right? Aha plus sam. So there is a Visarga followed by is. So Daha Samvatsaro. Then Vyalaha Pratyaya. There's a Visarga followed by pa, which we went through earlier. This Vyala Pratyaya Sarva. Then again a Visarga followed by Vishnu Sahasranam. You'll see many in the same line. There will be multiple Visargas. So you'll have to follow pretty much, according to what follows it, appropriately connect it. And if you do this right, initially it may seem like this looks like a lot more complicated, but once you start practicing, it just comes, pretty automatically. Aha sambatsaropyala pratyaya sarvadashanaha is what you'll see normally the way it should be chanted. Now, this what is said in all the in our in our scriptures, especially in Sanskrit grammar, this is very much applicable. A lot more for Vedic chanting. If you're doing Vedic chanting, you should do this properly. Now, for sloka chanting, a child may not be able to follow it. We as adults should be, try to, follow it as much as possible. it's not a crime if we don't follow it. It's just that, it sounds so nicer if you combine it. So we'll go through some others next class. So
Sir,
now we will,
everywhere,
yeah.
it is the following letters, half word we are actually using, right, sir? Only
Mhm.
the first
There is,
example, what you told, Ramaha plus Tatra alone, Ramas Tatra. Though it is ta as the following, we are putting is.
yeah. So don't look at, please. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Don't go by logic here. So obviously the Sanskrit masters decided what should be the right, akshara or consonant that should be used, half consonant that should be used. So it is not that, that consonant should be preceded by half of that same consonant, not at all necessary, right? Only in the case of, let's say, is or sha, right? It is half sa, half sha. All the others, you'll see it is different. And we'll
And pa
go through that.
also, sir. Pa
Huh?
also predominant pa, if it is
It's
followed
pa is
also, it
also,
is
Lord, you'll see
pa.
pa coming, right? It's always pa there. No, not if, not but if, right? Okay, all right. Any other questions? So this comes a lot, when the next time you open your Vishnu Sahasranam book or Lalita Sahasranam book and then chant this, especially in the Namavali part of it, you'll see a lot of it, pretty much from the first stanza. Vishwam Vishnur Vashatkaro Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu. Onwards, you'll see lots of Visargas. So the Visarga thing is very, very common. As much more in Vishnu Sahasranam that way compared to many of the others. Okay, all right. So now we will get into 13th chapter. Chant a few verses. ॐ श्रीकृष्णपरमात्मने नमः अथ त्रयोदशोऽध्यायः क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञयोगः Arjuna Vacha. Now this first line may not be there in many books, but I'll chant it. Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Kshetram Kshetragyameva Cha Etad Etad Veditumicchami Jnanam Jeyam Cha Keshava. If it is there in your book, you can chant it. Otherwise, I'll go to the main one, which is where you'll see it in your book. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetramithyabhidhiyate.
श्रीभगवानुवाच
Idam
इदं
इदं
शरीरं
शरीरं कौन्तेय
Kshetramithyabhidhiyate.
क्षेत्रमित्यभिधीयते
एतद्यो
एतत्
वेत्ति ते प्राहुः क्षेत्रज्ञम् इति तद्विदः.
एतद्यो
एतद्यो
वेत्ति
वेति
तं
तं
प्राहुः
प्राहुः
क्षेत्रज्ञ
क्षेत्रज्ञ इति
इति तद्विदः
तद्विदः।
क्षेत्रज्ञं चापि मां विद्धि सर्वक्षेत्रेषु भारत.
क्षेत्रज्ञं
क्षेत्रज्ञं
चापि मां
चापि मां
विद्धि
विद्धि
सर्वक्षेत्रेषु भारत
सर्वक्षेत्रेषु भारत।
क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञयोर्ज्ञानं यत्तज्ज्ञानं मतं मम.
क्षेत्रज्ञयोर्ज्ञानं
क्षेत्रज्ञयोर्ज्ञानम्
यत्तज्ज्ञानं
तज्ज्ञानम्
मतं मम
मम।
तत्क्षेत्रं यच्च यादच्च यद्विकारि यतश्च यत्.
तत्क्षेत्रं
तत्क्षेत्रं
यच्च
यच्च
यादृच्छ
यादृच्छ्य
यद्विकारि यतश्च यत्
स च यो यत्प्रभावश्च तत्समासेन मे शृणु.
स
स
च
च यो
यो
यत्प्रभावश्च
यत्प्रभावश्च
तत्समासेन मे
तत्मासेन
शृणु
ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतम् छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक्.
ऋषिभिर्बहुधा
ऋषिभिर्बहुधा
गीतम् छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक्
छन्दोभिर्विविधैः
ब्रह्मसूत्रपदैश्चैव हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः.
ब्रह्मसूत्रपदैश्चैव हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः
महाभूतान्यहङ्कारो ब्रह्म बुद्धिरव्यक्तमेव च.
महाभूतान्यहङ्कारो बुद्धिरव्यक्तमेव च
इन्द्रियाणि दशैकं च पञ्चचेन्द्रियगोचराः
इन्द्रियाणि दशैकं च पञ्चचेन्द्रियगोचराः
इच्छा द्वेषः सुखं दुःखं सङ्गातश्चेतना धृतिः
इच्छा द्वेषः सुखं दुःखं सङ्घाताश्चेतना धृतिः
एतत् क्षेत्रं समासेन सविकारमुदाहृतम्
एतत् क्षेत्रं समासेन सविकारमुदाहृतम्
अमानित्वम् अदम्भित्वम् अहिंसा क्षान्तिरार्जवम्
अमानित्वमदम्भित्वम् अहिंसा क्षान्तिरार्जवम्
आचार्यो आचार्योपासनं शौचं स्थैर्यमात्मविनिग्रहः
आचार्योपासनं शौचं स्थैर्यमात्मविनिग्रहः
इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अनहङ्कार एव च
इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अनहङ्कार एव च
जन्म मृत्युजरा व्याधिः दुःखदोषानुदर्शनम्
जन्म मृत्युजरा व्याधिः दुःखदोषानुदर्शनम्
असक्तिरनभिस्वङ्गः पुत्रधारगृहादिषु
असक्तिरनभिङ्वशः पुत्रदारगृहादिषु
नित्यं नित्यं च समचित्तत्वम् इष्टानिष्टोपपत्तिषु
नित्यं च समचित्तत्वमिष्टानिष्टोपपत्तिषु
मयि
न
चानन्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्यभिचारिणी
मयि चानन्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्यभिचारिणी
विविक्तदशसंवित्तम् अर्ति अर्तिजन अर्तिर्जन संसदि
विविक्तदेशसेवित्वम् रतिर्जनसंसदि
अध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वम् तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम्
अध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वम् तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम्
एतज्ज्ञानमिति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानं यततोऽन्यथा
एतज्ज्ञानमिति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानं यदतोऽन्यथा
So started with Arjuna asking the question of definitions of Kshetram, Kshetragya, etc. And Krishna starts talking about, he answers that what, that he says, I am the knower of the field. When he says he, meaning the Ishvara, and the Kshetra, that's what he starts with. And then Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata. Right? So I am the field in every region. The entire universe is permeated by my one essence. And then he starts talking about what Kshetra is, right? So he starts with what, so he says that I'm going to describe to you in detail or in brief. He says in brief all about Kshetra, Kshetragya, its modifications, etc., etc. And also what are the cause, what are the things that cause something, and because of that cause becoming an effect, what more causes are also coming into play, everything. So you understand, right? Cause has an effect has another cause. This entire cycle, I will go through it. So those modifications. So starting from the fifth stanza, or sixth stanza onwards, he starts talking about that, right? So first of all, before we start anything, Krishna always clarifies to Arjuna, being a person who is an intellectual, right, that whatever I'm going to talk about is not something that's coming out of my mouth. This rishis have already said this, right? And rishis have chanted this, have covered it in multiple ways. That's what he talks about. And earlier, one of the things I missed out is that he says this body. We'll come to that. Now, when he says rishis have talked about all of this, what does rishis and all? He says rishis have talked about this in many ways. What does this many ways mean? Right? When we know what Vedas mean, right? It normally constitutes 4 sections, broad sections. What are those 4 broad sections? The first section is referred to as all the mantras, right? That's the mantras part, which is where all the chanting part, which praises the nature, which praises Bhagavan, etc. Following which comes all the karma kanda part of it. The karma kanda part of it has 2 sections. One is referred to as the brahmanas. Brahmanas are, you can call as the rituals part of it, how to do a particular puja, how to do a particular homa. All of the, step by step process is covered in the brahmanas. And then, somebody who's curious to know what is the essence behind these rituals, right? What is the symbolism behind? Why am I doing this? Brahmanas and Aranyakas together form the karma kanda part of it. So those of us who are, just don't care about a whole lot about what this and, why am I doing it? I just doing it because somebody told me to do it. We'll just follow the Brahmanas. For those of us who are curious to know a little bit behind symbolism, we'll also look at the Aranyakas. So this still comes under karma kanda, right? Whether you praise a deity or whether you praise something in nature like the sun or the moon or Varuna, whatever it is. Then comes the deeper part, which is the philosophical aspects, or what we refer to as Vedanta, right? Is where, and if you look at people also initially they will be more in mantras, just chanting it, and then slowly how to do pujas, then understand why am I doing this puja, and then slowly what is behind all this puja, who am I doing it to, etc. That's where Upanishads talk a lot more about the existence, about yourself, etc., etc. So this entire Vedantic knowledge, if we go back to what we learned earlier, constitutes of Paravidya and Aparavidya, right? The dualistic aspect of it, and then the Advaitic aspect of it. So all of this. So when we see this entire Vedanta, right? Why is it that we have to go into this? Right. If you go to fundamentals, let's go to fundamentals, right? Why is it that we live in this world, etc.? Is somewhere we think this world gives me security. World gives me happiness, isn't it? What does Vedanta say very clearly? I'm talking about when I say Vedanta, the Upanishadic aspect of it. The first thing it says is the world does not give you happiness. Just contradicts you. There is something else. Or let's put it this way. If you even get happiness, it has got a multifold aspect of it, which will come in a later set of stanzas. What it therefore says is it gives you all the tips and procedures and tools to make you realize where the happiness truly is, where the true security is. And so what does it say? It says that your real nature is your security. What is your real nature? Is your innermost self. That is the one that is secure. Everything else is fragile, right? We use the word fragile, right? Whenever we get any shipment. That's how it is. My emotions, my body, my thoughts, they are all subject to change. They are all perishable. When we say perishable, it is fragile. Do we ever think I'm fragile? Never, right? We always think I'm very robust, I'm very strong, this, that. But in a true sense, we are fragile. If we see it from the angle of the changes that happen, what I thought earlier, I contradict that same thing. So my mind is fragile. My emotions, everything is changing, is perishing. Born again, death again. Correct? So that's what that's the key thing that has to come out of this particular stanza is, when they say rishis have said all of this, rishis have said this, but what does it mean to you? That is what we have to, relate to, and then probably the rest of the chapter and the following chapters will also go into some of this. Okay, and it says very clearly that it is reasoning and it is decisive. Whatever the rishis have said is decisive. Decisive meaning there's no ifs and buts about it. You don't question it. I mean, question to understand is one thing, but questioning to see whether it is right or wrong, nothing, right? Anything in Vedanta is the absolute truth. Nothing to contradict it. So then we go into the fifth stanza, wherein it starts with Mahabhutani Ahamkaraha. So now the Kshetra and Kshetrajna part are going to get, dissected, bisected, whatever way you look at it. And so that's what happens. So he talks about, if you look at Sankhya Yoga, right? This whole Vedic, starting from second chapter, where the Sankhya Yoga got, briefly discussed. Rest of it is all under Sankhya. It's a philosophy, Sankhya philosophy. It says that whatever we call under Kshetra, Kshetrajna comes under, 24 things constituted. What are those 24 things? If you see it, 24 things. One, first thing is there are 5 senses, right? Then 5 karmendriyas and 5 jnanendriyas. Okay, but even before this, 5 gross elements, right? Panchamahabhutas. So Panchamahabhutas, 5 senses, karmendriyas 5, jnanendriyas 5, 20 already. Then you have your mind, intellect, ego, 23. And then the 24th is the unmanifest. So all the others are manifested aspects, right? If you see all the 23, 24th is the unmanifest. So these are pretty much the world that we are living in. And however way you look at it, whether you see it from your own perspective or the world that we live in, the world has got nothing more than, there's only this 24. Everything will come under this gamut in whatever ratio is possible. Some have more space, some have more water element than fire element, and vice versa. And that will be there, but it will all come under this one little thing. And so, in this, what is it that we have to understand? Right. So when we look at this entire thing, right, we normally take it for granted, isn't it? Let's say when I smell a rose flower and my eyes are open, right? I smell it, right? I see the beauty of that yellow color or pink color or white color of that particular rose. I smell it. I can, so there are, what is it? There is a sight aspect of it that's coming in. There's a smell aspect of it coming in. There's a ear. If you see among this 24, what are all energy elements into our system, isn't it? But there's something that puts it all together in no time, right? We don't even realize that they're all coming. It's like 5 different inputs coming, but we see it as though it is one. And what is making it all together as one? Maybe it's the mind, maybe it's intellect, but the beauty of it is we have to understand, right? When we see these 24, how are they all, harmoniously working together? And they take you to that one present moment where you're able to see all of this, visualize all of this, perceive all of it. That is, it's 24. One is to understand conceptually. But how are these working? How am I doing it? The second aspect of it to understand is from the standpoint of what the Rishi said earlier. What all aspects of your faculty do we use? Right? When we say Shravanam, Mananam, Nidityasanam, all of that, right? Is we are hearing, we are, listening to whatever is being said, absorbing it, questions are getting asked, etc. What faculty are we using? Wherever there is a presentation, maybe the eyes, but broadly speaking, definitely the ears. The ears are the most important aspect of it, right? And ears are, so what should be the faculty of the ears? One with the side of, having some open-minded ears, or the ears are listening, but after that it goes and before it gets into the mind, there is what we call as, have you seen masks? Right? Children put these masks, right? Halloween days, etc., etc. It is said that, every one of us has got a mask. What we hear through the ears goes in, but what gets, into the intellect, what gets into the mind is not exactly what is seen. There is a mask that puts a color to it, that puts a shade of, judgment, doubt, whatever you call it. And then only it gets in. So to the extent that, somebody says something, do I take every word of what is said and absorb it? Or I take only what I have initially thought about the same thing and put a shade of that, tick element or a non-tick element to it and then take it in. So that, in English, it is said broadly as listen and hear. But I call it, there's no word to it, right? You just have to just think of it, right? That, just think of it as a mask that I have in everything. My eye see something, how do how is it actually absorbed in my consciousness? Hmm. So these are the aspects that one we have to just reflect. I mean, it's not something that, one has to, how do I see things? They say, right, do you see things as it is? Do you perceive things as it is? Or I've got all these mask layers, one on top of the other. And the more masks I put, I hardly see any reality. Because I have put into my bucket, this is absolutely not right, no matter how much you say. Some people say, right, I don't agree with you one bit. That means what? Somewhere there is something hardcore integrated that, nullifies anything else that contradicts it. Okay. Okay. So now, then the other question that comes is, in the context of learning this Aranyakas, Vedanta, etc., what faculties are we using? We are using largely the mind and the intellect. But in order to achieve what is that so-called unmanifest aspect of it, which is the 24th constituent of that, existence, as we talked about. So in all of the mind and intellect, it largely goes by logic, isn't it? Right? If you think the entire thing, we go by logic, rational thinking. If the unmanifest comes under logical thinking, no, right? So somewhere, in order to get to some understanding, I have to use the mind and intellect. But if I have to go to my deepest nature, I have to come out of, mind, mindlessness, zero intellect, nothingness. So if I have to so-called go into nothingness, there is no mind, there is no intellect, there is no ego. So these are all just means, That is the reason they say, right, when we say, I understand it, I have a concept, because the concept is in the intellect. So that's the reason concepts are limited. It doesn't take you. I have to go beyond it. So when somebody says, I've experienced it, I've experienced bliss, I've experienced meditation, that means what? I've gone beyond that intellect. I've gone beyond the nature of my mind. Those are all vehicles. but those vehicles take me to some place, and after which my innermost nature, which is my consciousness, is what takes me further. So there's something we just need to just reflect a bit more, on some of these things, right? Where all these things fit into it, in A, from the standpoint of day-to-day interactions with the world, and B, from, this learning perspective, right? Spiritual learning perspective. So now we heard everything from, these are all inert looking things, right? Mind, body. So what is the activity that all these senses do, sense organs do? Where does the ego fit into the picture? Where does mind, intellect fit into the picture? My organs, my senses. Those are talked about in the few verses that precede, that come, right? Which is the first one, Ichcha, Dvesha, Sukham, Dukkam. You can see obviously, what is he saying? Desire, hatred, pleasure, and pain. All of these come under, these are all, these are all, not new words to you, right? Now, we have to just see this all from a Kshetra perspective, right? Or from the 24 elements that we talked about, right? Or the 24 constituents that we talked about. That all of these, when we see the world, and why is he now saying all of this? Is now to look at this pleasure and pain as, why did we say the world does not give you security, world does not give you happiness? Is when you understand that the world gives me a desire. Right? My name sometimes gives me pleasure. The same desire can also later on give me, pain. So therefore, right, in my banking on the fact that this desire, this world is going to give me security and happiness, that's where it nullifies it, it takes it away. So we have to see it from that angle. So obviously, yes, it gives temporary pleasure. And you always see this, right? The same thing that gives you pleasure, once it's taken away, it brings sadness. Similarly, something you don't like, when it comes, you don't, there is pain. But when it's taken away, that unwanted thing, it gives you pleasure. You understand? So this pleasure, pain, etc. is very subjective in nature. So what could be a pleasure, a particular thing that is pleasure for person A could be pain for another person and vice versa. So in all of this, there's a subjectivity, right? You can't put objective science into it and say, this particular sweet, you should like it. Why should I like it? You may like it, I don't. Right? We can argue, isn't it? So this world, therefore, when we say, this world, which was those 23 aspects that we talked about, I think we have to just see it from a dynamic day-to-day perspective, right? That first that these things are coming, and then who's observing all of these that are coming? The awareness that this right now I'm going through a pain. Right now I'm going through pleasure. And at what time? Now, not later on, right? I don't regret later on that I got this. Right now, at this present moment, right? I become aware, or I become a witness to the fact that I'm going through this particular emotion. I'm going through this particular sensation. And we know what desire does. Let's not get into that, right? So basically, in all of this, what Krishna is making sure is saying that these, he just uses the word. He's not used this word before. Savikara udahritam. Savikara means what? Modification. This word is not used. What is it? Why does he use the word modification? Because your own mind will say one thing once and it will contradict itself another time. Haven't we learned in one of the earlier chapters, right? Your mind is your best friend. Your mind is also your worst enemy. Haven't we learned it? Now, why is it that the mind? Because it contradicts itself. And that's the reason many say, I don't like myself. Why do we say I don't like myself? Because of this aspect of it, right? The mind is not, doesn't have a sanctity. It goes all over the place. So that is the nature. That's the nature. I mean, you can't question it. You can't say mind has to be like this. So when we use the word mind control, doesn't work like that, right? I can't tame the mind with the mind. But in all of this, what is the witness? The best way to understand, remember we've gone through this example before, right? There is a beautiful sunshine, and then on the ground level, a farmer or somebody wants to water a plant, field that you've got buckets and buckets of water. Some of the buckets were dirty to start with. So when he pours water, there is a lot of dirt. So in the clean bucket where the water is, there is beautiful sunshine. It's almost glittering sunshine that you can see. But in the muddy water, the sunshine is not that clear. So reflection of the sun as it is seen in the water. Is the sun affected? Not one bit. Witness, right? Which is that unmanifest aspect that we are talking about, the 24th element. So when we see ourselves, right, when we see our mind, what does the mind reflect? Our mind, our thoughts, our actions, everything is a reflection of what we are inside. They say this, right? Your outer world activity is a reflection of your inner world. What is that inner world? All the impressions, your misgivings, your, illusions. When it gets translated outside, it manifests in a way in terms of your actions. So what I am outside is a reflection of what I am inside. So my mind, mind is also a reflection of the consciousness. So here I have to say, what is this consciousness? Consciousness in the pure sense is absolutely nothing, not at all tainted. But our consciousness, right, has got all these so-called layers of, you can call it impressions or lack of understanding, ignorance, whatever they are. So mind is just a pure reflection of this. And because the mind is a reflection of it, what it portrays outside as thoughts, as actions, as behavior is all nothing. The root cause analysis is what we have to see here. Right? So many a times, we tell this to other people, right? Change this, change that, change this, etc. Doesn't work. Outer level, nothing works. You have to see something. What is it that I have to do to maybe change something from the inside, if it's possible? Right? And that's one of the reasons, if you notice, in our early childhood, etc., in the Gurukula system, everybody was taught a certain basic things to keep their mind in a certain calm state. Today, unfortunately, I mean, we are all learned to rut and, memorize and write exams, etc. So to the extent that, we have not taken care of the mind, we have only tried to, use the chitta part of it, the memory part of it a lot more. Then the reasoning aspect of it, proper thinking, proper analysis. And so that's the reason, if you notice, I mean, people who are, gone through these earlier systems, they are much more stronger mentally. They are a complete person. Today you see the Gen Z, they say, their comprehension, they can't even listen more than 10 minutes of a particular thing. Their grasping power is very limited. Why is it? I mean, it's not that, God has suddenly degraded their mental power, etc., right? It is the environment in which they've been brought in. And thanks to whatever, let's not get into that particular part, right? So, so when we look at this, the reason we have to look at this, all of this is, one from a spiritual angle, also from a day-to-day angle. What am I reflecting outside? What is my mind? All of this. Okay. So we say here, whether it is desire, which leads to either, craving or, aversion, or pleasure or pain, all of these are, part and parcel of Kshetra, because we're all subject to modification. That thing should just get into our head, that word modification, what it means. So now he goes into a lot of other aspects. Now, some of these, when you hear it, it will rhyme with some of the values that we have heard before in the previous chapter. But again, see it from a different angle here. So, amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, shanti, rajavam. Each of these is a potent word by itself. Right? There are probably about 9 or 10 values that are being discussed here. You can call it virtues, whatever. Amanitvam. Manitvam means what? It means, admiring myself. Self-admiration. I say mentally, I feel so great. Yeah, I've accomplished so much, and you have so much of pride from within. And you tend to forget that, there is a big role of Lord, of the divine that's come into play for where you are with that admiration. So, and I also forget to admire others. When I'm in this manitvam phase of life or thought process, I forget to see the goodness of what others are doing because I am into my own admiration, self-admiration. So amanitvam means what? Not having that attitude. Humility is the right word for it, right? So amanitvam is that. Adambitvam is the same thing, similar to the previous humility, but this person, here the first case, it was all mental in nature, right? Dambitvam means what? Somebody wants to be physically told, right? Wow, you're wearing a beautiful dress here, or you gave a very beautiful speech here. And for that person, he needs to get that voice of appreciation, or those kind of accolades from outside, from another person. So it's similar to the other one, but it's manifested differently. You can see some people, right? Some people don't care about what others tell them. Their ego is super high. Some others want to be heard. Like they'll say, I said so many things, you didn't tell me any one good thing about me. That means what? They want appreciation. I'm not saying, we should not take feedback. Don't take it at that angle. No? I think we just have to say, this is this is just, we are talking about egoistic aspect of these, in this ego is coming into play. Ahimsa, you know what the word is, right? Ahimsa. Ahimsa, we have to peel that onion a little bit. You can see it from multiple angles. There is what is called, 3 ways that I can do something, right? What is it? You can say it through at a body level, right? With your organs, karmendriyas, or you can do it either through speech. So first one comes as kaika, vachika, and manasa. These are the 3 ways that you can, create himsa at a body level, right? I'm hurting someone physically. Vachika means what? Verbal abuse, openly, shouting at somebody, saying bad things, etc. Manasa, of course, not doing any of the first 2, but still causing mentally. Each of these 3 are ahimsa, right? So it's not that ahimsa means somebody, who looks very, is not saying anything, is not creating himsa. Ahimsa means at a mental level, I only think good about another person, or at least I'm centered. I don't get totally caught up by somebody doing bad work, etc. I see somewhere in the middle. So kaika, vachika, manasa. So that's where ahimsa part comes in. And then shanti. Shanti is forgiving. The forgiving ability is something, you can say that comes very naturally to a person who is following ahimsa. Because forgiving means what? Somewhere in a mental state where, I'm okay if this person, creates this. I've got this mental stability. Only when I have that, forgiveness can happen. Right? Somebody with himsa attribute will find it very difficult to forgive somebody else. So somewhere, so that's where Kshanti comes in. Arjavam. Arjavam means what? Where, all your things, right? So when we talked about Vachika, Manasa, Kayika, etc., right? So you're an integrated personality. You understand, right? So when I say integrated, what is a non-integrated personality, you can ask, right? Where you'll see that, somebody may have a very good, mental, mentally the person is very strong, but lose talk, right? Or body actions don't reflect what the mind is. So they are in tangent with each other. Somewhere where everything coexists together, right? Your body doesn't do something that contradicts what you're from inside. So when you look at this one common thing, right? A word called discipline, or you let's just take even at punctuality, right? I want to be punctual for a meeting. Doesn't it require all the three of them to be there? You just can't say by body itself, if I go there, it'll be there. Mentally, I need to be aligned, right? My hands and legs, etc., have to be has to be ready to do that. And so basically, where all of these things congruent, or congruent to each other, work together to make something happen, where there is you can call somebody who is um, upright, or you can call it somebody who is uprighted person. That is the word for arjavam. And then acharyopasanam, very obvious. Acharyopasanam means what? Somebody who does service to the nature does not question the teacher. Very, very thin. Right. Jairam sir runs a Pachala. Today, children may ask this, right? But typically, in our Gurukul system, etc., nobody would question the teacher. Today, if the teacher, spanks the child, it's taken to court, etc., right? Not at all, right? I mean, the teacher does something, the teacher does it for a very good reason. So nobody went to court for certain things, right? So the reverence to the teacher was very high, the respect for the teacher very high. And it is not the person, because inside that person, right? See, again, when we talk about a guru or especially in Gurukul system, that person, what he reflects outside is that wisdom is a reflection of what is inside. Inside, he is secure, he is stable, he is centered. And it is that is appreciated. And that's the reason in our Shastras it is said, Acharyopasanam. You just literally take whatever the teacher says, do this, you do it. Small child is told, you have to go clean the cow shed, etc. Why should I do it? I can't do it. Can I do it tomorrow? No questions asked. You all got to do it. Okay? Acharyopas. Shaucham. Shaucham, we all know what Shaucham means, right? Shaucham means purity. So when we say purity, it has to be again at all levels, right? You can't say purity and, bodily and pure. Again, the things that come is what? How do you speak? Is that purity? Physically, are you pure? Are your thoughts pure? So, so when we do tapas, right, one of the techniques, sadhanas, why those tapas are done? Why is it that people say go into mauna for some time, right? Talk little, or do certain things which, write something, write this particular thing 108 times. Why is it all done? It's not a punishment, right? It is to get that mind, thoughts, purity, to build that. And that's the reason even there is something called, verbal austerity that is used, right? It's called vak tapas. What happens when in those, right? And when you go to any Vedic pathshala, no questions asked. You don't say, why should I do it 108 times? What does that do? Repetition, repetition, repetition. It just makes, everything from your brain cells, neurons, etc., so aligned that, this Shaucham aspect comes very strongly. And then we get into Stadium. Willpower. Willpower, as you know rightly, right? I'm able to handle the obstacles. I don't question those obstacles. As it comes, I know it is there for a reason. It has come. What's the best way to handle it? Because obstacles, everybody gets it. How do I counter it? And for all of this, I need a strong willpower. So that's where Shaucham. And then Shaucham, Steirya Matma Vinigraha. Right? Stadium. Stadium means what? Steadiness. And Vinigraha, self-control. When I say self-control, again, self-control is not something that's going to come just by itself, right? It has to come along with the practices. But again, all of these he's saying are virtues that a person in the world should be having. That's the reason he's putting all of this together. Atma Vinigraha. What is Atma Vinigraha? Atma Vinigraha, is self-control, but the self-control is so that your instruments can go within. You can direct your instruments to go inside versus outside. That's all it is, right? I mean, self-control, you don't do it just for the sake of doing it. Ability, namaha, myself. The classic example, right? We've learned this before, is Kathopanishad, right? Where the example is taken in that way. There is a chariot, and then the chariot is being taken, is being driven by a person. There's 6 or 8 horses. There's the reins that control those horses, and there's a driver. The horses, are always, equated to the sense organs, right? And who controls those sense organs? Is the reins. The reins is the mind. But who controls even the reins is the intellect, which is the driver. So from a management perspective, if my intellect is, in control of things, largely speaking, in decision making, rest of it all come into play. So when they say, in management is used, self-management, do proper self-management. What is self-management? Self-management is Atma Vinigraha. Nothing else. The word self-management, if you peel it to the onion in terms of kshetra, in terms of our body attributes, it is this. What role does your thing play? Okay. Atma Vinigraha. Now we'll go into the 8th verse here. One particular thing I want to mention, I might have missed it, is that when he said in one of the early verses, this body is kshetra, and in that all these elements we've already talked about. The body, when we say body, we have to understand the body is not just a physical body, right? It is Stula, Sukshma, Karana. All that constitutes bone, structure, etc. And then, the subtle body which envelops it, which is where the mind, the intellect, all of those emotions, etc., come into play, thoughts, etc. And even the outer layer, which is a causal body, which is where the impressions, etc., all of them are there. All the three. So when we look at the 24 elements in the context of these three aspects of those bodies, you will be able to relate to it, right? Because physical body is just a very small entity. The other two bodies are much bigger, much wider. Okay, so 8 stanza sit here. I didn't realize it was close to 10:30. Thoughts?
Very heavy, sir.
Sir, will
It is
you
heavy.
repeat
Too
this
many.
once again, sir? This class.
I
Recorded.
mean, we realize that the last six chapters are not light at all. Okay, but it's very logical at the same time, right? You tell me in this whole thing, did it seem illogical anywhere? It is just that there's a lot to absorb. That's the only thing I understand, right? And a lot to conceptualize also, right? But it's not that we're not going actually into the abstract world of divinity at all, right? We're still talking at our own level. So we all know, right? Our whole existence itself in this world is so complex. Right? What
No,
are we
why
made
I
up
told
of? The way we do things.
no, why I
Yes,
told
sir.
repeat in the sense, even the other versions are the better examples. It is not that today's is not, I mean, for me, I feel it is not sufficient to grasp exactly the meaning what Lord Krishna is saying. The repeated class may come up with some more better examples so that we can understand much better about this
Okay.
3-4 verses. Because this 24 gunas are the kshetra, which is not a small thing, no, sir. If I ask you, Anga is better or the cover, what we are covering, the shirt is better, what do we say? That is how it looks like
E-
to me.
Each of it's all there for a purpose, right? You can't say even a little. They say thumb is more important than every finger is important. They say, right? So we can never ridicule the little
Correct.
finger because it's got its own purpose like that. So
And all these are like Bhagavatam also it touches upon, sir. Many of these 24, Bhuta, not Bhutas, whatever it is built
yeah,
on.
definitely.
Maybe I think I'm
And
overloaded since yesterday. Till evening, I'll be again have to go there.
yeah, if you go, if you just reflect, it's not that complicated. Today's at least. Uh, Maybe over time in this chapter and later chapters, it gets a bit more loaded. But yeah. Kubeshwaran, any thoughts? Bhavani Solo.
Hey, Gurudev, I don't know whether this is relevant to the chapter, but what I came to me is not obsessing myself with all this, taking it as it comes, as it flows. What I'm saying is there are two types of emptiness which I have felt in life during all these almost 70 years, right from 10, 12 years, where I didn't know it was some emptiness. One emptiness is which puts you down into a bottomless pit when you are very sensitive to and responsive or reactive to external circumstances in your life, whatever it is. And over a period of time, all these flew over, but they keep coming and going. But after the guru comes, there is something which is different from all this. And other type of emptiness, the blessing of the guru is that which is a void where you don't have the experience of falling. But in that emptiness, after the guru came, when you used to say you are going into a bottomless pit, somebody is watching it and saying, I am falling into a bottomless pit there. And that awareness with the Guru blesses saves you every time. And this emptiness that I feel many a time, which is becoming a little more than ever, I mean, slowly becoming more. I can't say maybe by fractions of seconds or minutes, I don't know. But that each fraction is like life. When you feel you're in empty space, you don't have it of falling. everything is so empty. I mean, everything is full in my life, everything is full, but everything is so empty. And these are the two types of experience which I wanted to share with you. And it's just because of the Guru
Thank you.
that the falling feeling, you're falling, but there's something in me which is saying, I'm falling. What is this taking me? That awareness is what keeps you alive, even in that. And that is all classes, through classes like Ramesh's and interactions with people, all of you have been instrumental right from my 8-9 years, from my grandparents, maternal grandparents, to all this. These have all been instrumental in keeping me there. Bless you all. Bless you all.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful, Ji. Bishon Solama.
Brief. I'll keep it very, very brief. Actually, no, not to touch anything, but it is very, very intense. Like so much to grasp and where, how to connect all that, and how much to remember. But on the key things that keep striking is, whatever externally we do is again all the impressions, and then how we carry is one of the interesting things. And then as you said that, like, sun is the same, right? The reflection of clear water versus muddy water is what we see. And the third aspect is, okay, even if we say everything is knowledge, and then everything should work harmoniously to even everything should work harmoniously even to understand that this flower has this smell and this is the color and this is the same way, even to understand all this, and there must be something within us, and that also must have been given by someone, and that also must have been blessed by someone to whatever level. If I could get only 10%, and that is my blessing. That is one other thing. But
Yeah,
the
yeah,
most
everything that is
interesting,
right.
the most interesting thing is this thing, Adam Bitvam. So one of he didn't leave that also. Don't tell that what you don't know outside. He didn't leave that also actually. So people keep boasting that.
Yeah,
The level that he went into not to leave anything.
yeah. It's very scientific in nature, right? Yeah, now all these Krishna doesn't, leave any one bit there, and all of this, right? So it's all peeled completely. So, all right, we will. Yeah. So one quick one, this Jairam sir reminded me the holy month has started. I think 14th he mentioned it starting. So maybe not this next week, the following week onwards, because of the puja in the temple, Jairam sir was requesting that we change the timing a little bit earlier. I think we kept it from 8:15 to 9, if I remember. It was a shorter session, but we did it for about a month. Sir, Jairam sir, from which day to which date, sir? You tell us.
Sir, 15th is the Saturday. From 15th to 4 weeks, sir.
Okay.
That
So I'll post this in a message.
yeah.
If I remember right, I think we did it 8:15. I'll just so maybe we'll have to just adjust a little bit in order to fit into this particular
8
thing,
to
so that
9,
we
I
can
think, sir. We did 8 to
8 to
9, I
9.
think, sir.
8 to 9.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fine with it. 1 hour is needed because 45 minutes will not do
Yeah.
justice.
Yeah, no problem. No, 8 to 9 is okay. Well, for me, I need to be there when the Mahamangalarti starts, because lot of things will happen there, and all unwanted things will crop up. If I'm there, nothing will happen.
I understand. No, we'll do it, sir.
Everybody
We'll do it.
goes. Yeah. Okay.
I'll post it in
Thank
the
you.
group.
Thank you.
We can all agree on it, and
Yes,
starting
sir.
the week following next. We'll
Okay.
do it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Om
Hari Om.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti
Shanti,
Shanti
Shanti,
Shanti.
Shanti. Hari Om, sir.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you.